Have my respect, Hunter. Well done. You have the lead. Triple. Double down. Together as one. I love it. Triple down.
Hey guys, Pettycakes here. So I was working on my quest to finish every exotic catalyst in the game, which had me using the Suros Regime in PvP. For those of you who didn't play Destiny 1, the Suros had a period of time in early vanilla D1 where it was the absolute king of PvP. It melted people at incredible speeds along with other popular auto rifles like the Shadow Price. Fast forward to today, the Suros and other auto rifles in general have been through a lot of changes with various nerfs and buffs. My playtime finishing the Suros catalyst had me wondering, do auto rifles need a buff in the current sandbox? Before we attempt to answer that question, let's paint a picture of how primary weapons are currently balanced in Destiny 2. Each weapon type has an effective range as well as a sweet spot where it's most lethal. For example, if we take a look at SMGs, they tend to be very lethal at close range, but then damage per bullet starts to rapidly drop off around 20 meters. Scout rifles on the other hand are lethal anywhere from very close range out to about as far as engagements can be on Destiny 2 maps. Here's a basic overview of where each primary weapon currently sits in Destiny 2 as far as effective range is concerned. You can see that auto rifles basically share the same effective range as hand cannons. So there's two major levers that we can pull in order to tweak how powerful a weapon feels in PvP. Number one is how effective the gun performs at range. We've seen a current example of this with the rangier hand cannons that have come into the game recently, such as the Spare Rations and the Austringer. Number two is how fast the weapon's able to kill an opponent. In other words, if you were to hit every single crit shot without missing a bullet, how fast would the opponent die? This is known as the optimal time to kill, or TTK. Balancing time to kill is very tricky for game developers. When time to kill gets too fast, it can feel like you just never stood a chance in a fight. This is the scenario with most Call of Duty style games, where someone turns a corner and vaporizes you before you even saw them. On the other end of the spectrum, when time to kill gets too slow, it can feel like you can't ever win a 2v1 situation because killing either opponent takes too long, and the game can develop a hand-holding team shot meta similar to what we had in early Destiny 2. So where do auto rifles currently fit within this time to kill landscape? If we take a look at the time to kill charts prepared by Mercules, there's also a link in the description by the way to check it out for yourself, we see that generally speaking, auto rifles range from about 0.8 to 0.93 seconds for an optimal time to kill, and 1.27 to 1.47 seconds for body shot time to kill. Now compare this to hand cannons, which have an optimal time to kill ranging from about 0.8 to 1.07 seconds and a body shot time to kill of about 1.6 to 1.73 seconds. So this begs the question, if auto rifles technically kill faster on paper, why don't we see them overtaking hand cannons in the PvP meta? I think there's two main reasons behind this. The first reason is that most players find tracking aim to be more difficult than flicking aim. In case you're not familiar with these terms, let me give you a quick and dirty breakdown. Flicking aim is when your crosshair is considerably off target and you use your muscle memory to quickly flick onto the target accurately and then fire. With flicking aim, you're only concerned about the accuracy of your mouse or control stick at the moment where you fire the weapon. The rest of the time you can be off target and it doesn't matter. Contrast this to tracking aim, where you attempt to accurately trace the target with your reticle while your opponent is moving. This is generally considered more difficult to do it with a high level of accuracy. Hand cannons benefit mostly from having good flicking aim. This is because you only need to be accurate for about 3 to 4 shots in order to achieve a perfect time to kill. On the other hand, auto rifles benefit more from tracking aim because you need to hit the opponent with potentially 10 or more shots in order to achieve a perfect time to kill. Now the other thing to take into consideration is that it's usually easier to incorporate complex movement patterns into your playstyle while still having accurate flicking aim, but it's more difficult to do this while having accurate tracking aim. By this I mean that you're mixing in your strafing patterns and crouching patterns in order to make yourself harder to hit. The other major advantage that hand cannons have over auto rifles is that hand cannons do their damage in large burst windows, allowing you to make use of cover so you can peek out, fire a shot, retreat back to cover, and in between your shots you limit the amount of time that you're in danger. Auto rifles can't do this as easily because they need to fire continuously in order to achieve an optimal time to kill. So now we're starting to see why hand cannons tend to be more favorable in the current meta even with a slightly slower time to kill. Now before we go any further, I want to point out that I am a huge fan of hand cannons and I truly believe that Destiny PvP feels best when hand cannons are competitive at the top of the PvP meta. I'd hate to see any nerfs that would change this. With that said, I'm also a fan of variety, and I think that a diverse sandbox full of many viable options makes for a great gameplay experience. So let's look at a few ways that we could buff auto rifles in order to make them just a bit more competitive in PvP. Option 1 is to increase their range. I'm not a huge fan of this route because ideal range is a powerful tool in helping weapons find a home in the meta, and if auto rifles get buffed significantly here, it eats into the reason to use a pulse rifle or a scout rifle. In fact, I think that's one of the biggest reasons that scout rifles are a bit underused right now. You have aggressive pulse rifles such as the blast furnace and go figure occupying too much of the same ideal range as scout rifles. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video on this topic. Let me know in fact in the comments if you'd be interested in that. Option number 2 is to decrease the time to kill of auto rifles. I personally think this is a better route for the meta balance overall. When we're looking at tweaking time to kill, we have to consider both how fast a weapon fires along with its damage that it deals for both headshots and body shots. The damage bonus that you get for landing a headshot instead of a body shot is called the headshot multiplier. Currently, auto rifles have a headshot multiplier of around 1.5. For example, a bullet from the Suros Regime with a spinning up tree perk selected does 14 damage for a body shot and 21 damage for a headshot as long as you're within its ideal range. Headshot multipliers are how a lot of games widen the skill gap between players. Take an AK-47 from Counter-Strike Global Offensive for example. A headshot deals an instantaneous kill while hitting all body shots requires 4 bolts to defeat your opponent. This greatly rewards the player with better aim who's able to land that headshot. If we're buffing auto rifles, we also need to make sure that we don't cause SMGs to become obsolete in the process. If you remember from earlier, auto rifles currently range from about 0.8 seconds to 0.93 seconds for an optimal time to kill, and 1.27 seconds to 1.47 seconds for a body shot time to kill. Let's compare that to SMGs now, which have about a 0.67 to 0.8 second optimal time to kill, and a 0.93 to 1.13 body shot time to kill. Now realistically, no one is hitting 100% headshots up close with an SMG, so practically speaking, the time to kill is probably closer to 0.9 than 0.6. Taking this into account, I'd really like to see Destiny experiment with a larger headshot multiplier on auto rifles. This would allow for a faster time to kill potential in order to reward skillful aim at range, while also not eating too badly into the SMG sweet spot up close. I believe if auto rifles had an optimal time to kill of around 0.7 to 0.8 seconds, they would start to see a lot more use in the meta, but still not feel too overpowered. So I'd love to hear what you think about this. Do auto rifles need a buff in the current meta, or do you think they're fine? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, I'd appreciate a thumbs up rating to let me know. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss my next PvP breakdown video. If you enjoyed talking about the Destiny 2 PvP meta, I'd love to chat with you on my Twitch channel. You can find me over at twitch.tv/pattycakespc. I stream most nights of the week. I also do free competitive help on PC each week. Be sure to say hi in Twitch chat to get the details. We also have a fantastic Discord community where you can meet other Destiny PvP fans. There's a link in the description to check it out. That's all for now. I'll catch you guys next time.